Sarah Boland from Tucson. Okay, so before I invite her in, I would like to just give everybody a little bit bio, a little background, okay? Sarah Boland is an evolutionary astrologer and holistic designer, integrating intuition, feng shui, and spiritual healing. She works with people who are focused on their spiritual growth, healing, and are curious about how they may fulfill their soul purpose. As a lifelong learner, Sarah is also an avid student of metaphysics and has been since her teens. Over the past 20 plus years, she has been immersed in lifelong study of astrology, and she currently is a member of OPA and TAG. Without further ado, let's have a warm welcome to Sarah Boland. Hi, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, Sarah, it's an honor to have you here today. Can I tell how we get connected at the first time?
Oh, absolutely.
To the viewers. So I was in online class, a fellow student of mine in end of March remind me about a presentation that Sarah presented about Sacred Place. So I listened 2 times, and at that moment I said, this lady has such a profound wisdom. I got to know her. So I checked her website, and finally I just have a courage to invite her. And you know what? She agreed to come to our group and have this interview. Hi, Sarah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and I understand you have been into astrology, which is, really a novice. I'm only study less than a little bit 2 years. Can you tell our group, the viewers, how you get into astrology since your teen? Just a little bit.
Okay, so it actually started in my early 20s. I was an interior designer in San Francisco, and I worked for a woman. It was just she and I was her assistant, and she went to a meeting, and when she came back to the office, she was a changed woman, and she had to share with me this profound experience of having an astrology reading. And that planted a seed for me, probably when I was about 22 years old. And I knew at some point I would have to study astrology. So that was kind of where it started. I had a life crisis several years later, and I actually went and had my first astrological reading. And it was incredibly profound how it softened me. It explained so much of who I am. At that particular time, there were parts of myself that I didn't really care for, that I was disowning. So it helped me see the purpose of it and integrate it. And it was incredibly profound. So
wow. That's very interesting. I always loved the stars when I was in college. And I never joined any club until 2019. I went to this Soul Purpose course. It's actually about the moon and sun and things. And since then, I've been really intrigued and study ever since. That's how I'm still continue studying. It's an art and science. People probably don't think it's science, but I believe it because there's a chart. But that's not the main thing here today. But the main thing is I understand you have a degree in interior and architecture. And also you are into feng shui. I am very curious. How did you get into feng shui? Okay.
Well, again, it started in my first career in interior design. That, it was just something that I've always felt. I part of the reason why I went into interior design is I was absolutely astounded how you could walk into a space and it could really change the way you feel, right?
Yes.
I'm incredibly sensitive. I've learned over the years that I'm actually a pretty strong empath and intuitive. Mm-hmm. And it was always something I felt. I would walk into a space and I knew when it made me feel at peace and calm, and there were other times that things were just amiss. And to be perfectly honest, I grew up with a household that was not very neat and tidy and organized, and it was always something I was trying to fix. I was never really comfortable in my parents' home because the space didn't flow well.
Mhm.
And so it was something that, again, I think it was born very authentically within me. And it was something that I sought out early on. And of course, it was in the early 80s when I started studying feng shui. And it's a perfect marriage with doing interior design. And so many of the techniques really just make good design, right? So they're a perfect complement.
Yes, that's interesting. You mentioned about that. When I look at your website, and immediately I love it. It's very simple, and it's like a holistic integration about you as a person. So I'd like to know about your concept a bit more. And I actually found out, I forgot if I got from your presentation, but you mentioned something about the awareness, about honor who you are, about the home, about cleaning the space to create a healthy chi. Chi means energy.
Yes.
Okay. And then also set up like an altar space. In where I grew up in Taiwan, actually, a lot of Taiwanese, they have an altar where they do like a daily put the incense on, and they worship their ancestor, or like Guan Yin, or the red face that the god called Guan Gong, and and the Tu Di Gong, which means the god of the land, something like that, like an ancestor, the plant. And my mom does that, so I understand about how important to have an altar space, which is make you set the intention for the day, like daily basis, maybe day and night for my mom. My mom passed away, but I set a little bit altar here. There got a Buddha and things. And I feel like I pray to my parents, my ancestor, and I felt good. And my husband is a Christian, right? So, but he also follow and also respect my tradition, which is I feel very blessed. Can you talk a little bit about this, like set intention, and having a sacred place and things like that with the
Yeah,
viewers?
that's absolutely part of my work. And what I've found over the years is that the astrology and the integration of the home space actually is very much helps you be in alignment with yourself. And I do. I have several altar spaces throughout the house. I have a main altar actually in my bedroom where I meditate, and I don't have photographs of my ancestors, but I have some things of, like I have a scarf of my grandmother's that she gave me that's very, very special to me, and that is part of my altar. I also have a Kuan Yin, and I have a singing bowl and other pieces that kind of represents parts of myself and also my intentions. I do set daily intentions and help those so that I can stay focused and manifest what I want in my life. So I wanted to, if I could, just tell a quick story. Where this all came about was I actually had a woman that I knew who came to me several years ago, and she had indicated that she was having trouble painting. She was also an artist. And
like a blockage?
Yes. And she said, I really want to paint in my space. But she said, I think it's the killing chi of the building next door. And she knew I did feng shui. And she said, could you come over and take a look at my space? So I went over and viewed her whole house, took a tour of her entire house. And she was a very fastidious, neat individual. And what I ended up discovering is that when I opened her studio door, it was complete chaos in there. And this was not, it was super obvious to me, probably anyone else who walked through her space, but it was unclear for her that she was actually self-sabotaging. She had a goal that she had wanted to complete a series and then try and get a gallery showing. So, but she just couldn't even spend any time in her space. And so I said, well, let me just take a few days. I find that, and many of your audience, I think is going to resonate with this, is that I use my subconscious and I use my sleep and my dreams to kind of get information, as well as my my spirit guides. So I actually slept on it a couple of days, and I called her and I said, we need to sit down and do an astrological reading, because I knew that was going to give me more information. And after the astrology reading, it was very clear that there was the blockage was, we found out, and she didn't really know, but the blockage was that her father wanted her to be either a doctor or a lawyer or some kind of career like that he didn't value being an artist. He thought artists were flakes and were not to be taken very seriously, which was very injuring to her. And she had just put it aside. Well, it was manifesting in the fact that she couldn't paint. It was her blockage. But once she discovered that, I gave her a bunch of remedies for her space. Number one, to clean it up, organize it, put a chair in the corner so that she could sit, drink a cup of tea, view what she had just painted, kind of sit with it kind of during her process, as well as adding things in the space that made her feel like a successful artist, things that inspired her, whether it was words or other painters' sculptures or paintings, and something to, again, really own the fact that she was an artist. Because sometimes the internal work shows up in our space, shows up in our exterior environment. And sometimes it takes someone outside to be able to see that and to be able to recognize how it doesn't fit with who you are as an individual, what you're trying to manifest and create in the world. And then also just who you are, just how you're hardwired, as well as your life purpose, which all of those things we can see in astrology, as you know.
Yes, that's a beautiful example. Actually, before I invite you in, I was thinking about this book written by two co-authors called David Bells and Ted Olin, Art and Fear, of Observation on the Perils and Rewards. I wonder if you ever read that. That was in 1994. It was very good book about, I'd like to touch a little bit on this with you, since you are also an artist. Like a lot of people, not even artists, like people has that fear, just like we have a fear of virus right now. How do you meet that fear, for example? And most of people has a lot of fear. It could be fear of the height, the fear of anything. Do you have any remedy like you can suggest people, since you've been doing a lot of, I don't think you are a psychotherapist, but you've been doing astrology. So you might have encountered a lot of example about the fear, this thing. Maybe you can share with the viewer a little bit.
Well, I think when I think about fear is not having trust, right? And it's fear of kind of the unknown, this sort of what could happen. And so what I like to do is, when I am feeling fear, of course, the first thing I want to do is sit and meditate and calm myself, and ground my energy, and, maybe run my chakras and clean out my chakras so that I'm very grounded. And then focus on, for me, I don't have it with me right now, but I do have, I do keep stones with me. I have several throughout the house, and I actually keep one in my car, that when I do feel like I need grounding, these are just things I've picked up. I used to live on an island, and I was always on the beach combing. And so I often will find things that will make me feel connected to the earth, and that will make me feel very centered. So those are kind of the things. And then just a mantra that I tell myself is that, I am safe, and that what will be. And if something actually happens, I will address it at that time, but just to calm myself and to remember to be in the present moment.
Beautiful. That was beautiful said. When you mentioned about the stone, I'm Aquarius, sun sign. You are. That's so interesting. I didn't know actually when our last conversation. So my birthstone is, I think, amethyst. But I also went to this energy store, and somebody recommend me the black tourmaline. I don't know if you know about that. I have one put it right there when I go to my assignment, because a lot of energy was in like a law office. It's a lot of, sometimes, conflict. So I will put one in my suitcase to carry with me. So to block the energy, you know what I mean? So when I'm home, I would just rub it or put the incense to clear up the energy. Do you do something like that, like incense at this time?
I don't do incense. My husband has trouble with those sort of things, heavy scents or anything. So I don't do incense, but I do like candles.
Like candles. I do candles too, but because I learned the incense, and my husband's like, wow, it looked like I go to the Taiwan temple. He's just kidding. But sometimes I just have to open the door, let the energy, the air going out and forward, like let it circulate a little bit. So it's very good. And you live in Tucson, Arizona. Is that your birthplace all the time, or?
No, but I did live here as a young girl. And I've always had an affinity for the desert and the sunshine. And my mom lives in town, so I'm very fortunate that she's still with us, and I'm spending as much time with her as I can.
That's wonderful. You are so blessed. I live in Las Vegas, but where I live is the foothill of Red Rock. So it's a lot of mountains. Where I grew up in Taiwan, we have the oceans around and the mountains. And unfortunately, right now, it's like a little bit outbreak right now. We have been through a big outbreak. Now everybody got shot. I believe you also got shots too.
Yes.
I think a lot of people has a fear about shots. What do you think about that? I know some people probably don't want to talk about it.
I'm happy that there's, solutions. And again, a lot of people might be in fear about it, but I have such a strong faith in our soul purpose, and that if it's, if things are going to happen, it's going to serve me in some way, even through the difficulties. But I very much think that, getting a vaccination or whatever is, if I can protect other people as well as myself and my family, I'm all for it. So, but I know lots of people may have troubles with it. I definitely, the first one was a piece of cake. The second one I got, I was really tired. That was all. So I spent the day after just kind of sleeping off and on all day, which
that's it, right?
To take a quiet day. I mean, not a great way to take it, but it was nice to relax.
Yeah, I actually was opposite. First shot was a little bit, tingling and swollen, but tired. But second shot is like, I'm completely alive. I was so looking forward to, because it's been a year and, many months. And it's finally we can get that shot. I feel more relieved today because we can do that. And a lot of countries, they did not have that yet.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
We are fortunate, I think, to live in this country.
Yes.
The government take care of us, right?
Yeah.
And I have a little bit here. Would like you to play a little bit like a game.
Oh, yay!
Yay!
Okay.
Yeah, I know you are a lifelong astrologer now. Compared to I've just studied 2 years. So last time I invited my teacher, we were talking about the sign itself, right? So now, how about we talk a little bit about planets? And I will say, because I know in order to read the astrology, you need to know the sign, the planet, the houses, and also the aspect. But most of us here, I don't think they are astrologer, or they are just interested. I believe they are interested. So if you can, because everybody know if they have a chart, their planet is somewhere in the houses, right? So can you tell us what does it mean? So I will start with the sun. Okay, I write with the sun, and you just give us a little bit keyword of each one.
Okay. So the sun is the core of yourself. It's kind of, it's who you are at the very center. It's how you shine. It's how you really show up in the world.
And the moon.
And the moon is about our emotional nature. And the moon is, again, ruled by, or Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the moon is also about our habits, how we do things in terms of kind of on a habitual basis. I think there was something else I was going to say. I lost my track.
That's also about emotion, right? The emotion.
Yes. Oh, I didn't cover that. Yes, definitely your emotional nature.
The emotion nature. It's like inside of you. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, and family. Also, it's about the lineage in your family. So the moon is what I look at often, not exclusively, but often if I'm trying to get some background on the mother or relationship with mother.
That's what I thought. And the sun, I think father is like a Saturn. I'm not sure.
Yeah, or it could be the sun. It just depends. It's kind of
how you look at it.
And in this day and age, it would be the parent who would be the nurturing parent for the mother, as opposed to being a female. It just depends on who you're
or the parent who is like a mother figure, not necessarily female. Okay, and let's go to the Mercury.
Mercury is the messenger, and Mercury is very fast. It's about knowledge and information. So it's about seeking things having to do with the mind.
The mind, yes. And Venus.
Oh, Venus. Venus is what we value. It's love. It's ruled by Libra, it rules Libra and Taurus. And one of my favorite planets.
Yeah, because you are into the beauty, the space.
Yes, exactly.
What attract your eyes, right? Yeah.
Right, that aesthetic nature, right? So it's all about how things appear and look.
Yeah, that's very, very good. Because in our group, I believe a lot of people has that Venus in their houses somewhere. That's why they are here.
Yes. Well, we do. We all have it somewhere.
Somewhere, right? Okay, let's go to Mars.
Mars is the warrior. It's the take action kind of energy. It's the initiator. It's the athlete. One of my favorite things to do when I do chart analysis is to look at athletes. I mean, there was a study that was done, I don't know, decades ago about using the Mars, and many athletes have Mars placed very prominently in their charts.
I believe so. Yeah.
Correlation. And I've been looking a lot at Tiger Woods.
Yeah, I have to check it out. Okay, let's go to the Jupiter, the benefic.
Yes. So Jupiter is the planet of, it's known as, the benefic, being very expansive. Whatever it touches, it makes bigger and enlarges it. So it could be about opportunities. It could be also about it, since it rules Sagittarius. It could also be about your belief system. So it's, again, it's very expansive.
That's interesting. Right now, if it's a transiting Jupiter, it's actually on my 10th house. That's why you are here.
Yes, it just moved into Pisces, and so for me, since Pisces is the artist, the poet, the musician, for me, having, it's only for the next 2.5 months, but when Jupiter went from Aquarius, just, I think it was last week or a few days ago, into Pisces, I put a post out for all my followers that said, all my artists and jewelry makers, it's time to tap into that creativity of about a 2.5-month window to maybe get a nice body of work done. And really tapping into your dreams and the collective, just kind of get in the flow.
So we are now have a little bit taste about the Jupiter in Pisces now, right? Right?
Yes, it's exciting.
Yes, and then you will go back to Aquarius for a while, end of the year, I guess, right?
And then back into Pisces for a year.
Yeah. For our audience, if you don't know about this, that's okay, but you get the gist now, right? Let's go to Saturn.
Saturn is the teacher of the zodiac. So Saturn is about structure. And some people say limitations, and well, I agree that I think Saturn is about good boundaries. But on the positive side, Saturn is also the master, right? It's how we master things. It's the ability to kind of stick with something through the trials and tribulations until we master the energy or whatever it is that we're trying to do.
Yes.
I don't like to focus too much on the negatives.
Yeah, we need to own our Saturn.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then let's go to, I know we have a half an hour window, so we'll really quickly touch on the next three. So Uranus.
Very unexpected. Think of lightning bolts. These are things that come suddenly and out of the blue.
Yes. And Neptune.
Neptune is, again, when I think of Neptune, think of water that goes everywhere. If there's no container, the water will just flow. It is about the collective unconscious. It is, again, it's how we tap in. For me, it's the higher source. It's how we tap into something way beyond ourselves.
Like a higher love too?
Yes.
Higher love. That's also in, it's funny, Jupiter and Neptune now both in Pisces.
Yes.
So Pisces is big now.
Yes.
Very expensive. And then Pluto.
Oh, Pluto. Again, one of my favorites. Most people are a little afraid of Pluto, but Pluto is the transformer. This is the energy that, think of the Phoenix rising, that mythology of, something getting burned, and then out of the ash rises the Phoenix, right? So it's about transformation. But whatever it touches, it does kind of destroy the structure so that something new can emerge. And that's a big thing right now in the United States chart. So
yes, I know. Yes. And then it's in Capricorn. So the big boss. So wonderful. So wonderful. Sarah, it's so good that you are also just yesterday into our group. So you can you can browse a little bit. And if you have any question regarding to this interview, that our conversation, everybody in our Soul Tribe group, you can maybe leave a message, right?
Absolutely.
And you can answer if you feel like inclined to. Sarah will be here to answer your question after this video. Thank you so much. I know you've been doing a great job, and so blessed to have you with us today for this half an hour.
Thank you so much for having me. And I would invite, your followers, anyone who's interested, feel free to friend me or message me, or I'm also on Instagram. So
I know you are such a nurturing person. You probably have a big moon sign somewhere, right?
I have a Cancer rising.
Cancer rising. So like a mothering, like a mothering. So you feel like I really connect to a very nice person. So everybody, don't be shy. Just ask Sarah. She will be very helpful for whatever your question is, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, I know. So I will see you next time, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Everybody, I will see you in our group. And talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.